Hello, and welcome back to the My First Marathon podcast, where we interview runners in all stages of their running careers about their first marathon experiences to prove to you that anyone can run a marathon. My name is Taylor, and today's runner's journey started with doom scrolling TikTok and finding a finish line video from the New York City Marathon, where she decided then and there that she wanted to feel that same sense of accomplishment and signed up for her own race. What followed was a whirlwind of 9 months of training that included injuries, setbacks, solo long runs in the snow, and plenty of trial and error with apps, shoes, and fuel. What stands out the most in Rebecca's story is how running pulled her out of a season of postpartum depression and helped her reclaim her identity outside of being a mom. Crossing the finish line in Pittsburgh wasn't just about running the distance. It was about proving to herself that she could do something bigger than her doubts. This conversation is raw, emotional, and inspiring, and I think you'll get a lot away from hearing how she got there. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Please welcome Rebecca. Rebecca, thank you so much for coming on the show. Super excited to have you and break down these last 9 months of running and all.
Yeah.
We just talked a little bit before. You've got some crazy stuff coming up as well, so can't wait to get into it. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Let's do it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, where did all of this start for you? How did we get introduced to running, movement? Like, where did all of this start?
I played soccer as a kid, so since
Okay.
I could put on a pair of cleats from Dick's Sporting Goods, I played soccer. My dad was my coach throughout my entire childhood and college experience, so I did a lot of that. And that's really all I did running wise. It wasn't after until I had my second child, my son, that I was sitting like on the couch, doom scrolling through TikTok, kind of like mental health really bad, physical health really bad. I was like the biggest weight I have been, and I'm pretty small to begin with. But, when you're 125 pounds your entire life and you bump up to 160 and all the pregnancy stuff, I was doom scrolling through TikTok. And I saw a edit for the New York City Marathon, which was happening. It had just happened that weekend. And I kind of was like, I want to do this. Like, I want to feel that way. I want to know what that feels like to accomplish something bigger than myself. So the next morning, after lots of crying, I put on a pair of Nikes and I went outside and I just started going. And I told my friends and my family I was running a marathon, and they're like, "No, you're not." And I was like, "Yes, I am. I'm going to do it. I deserve to feel that way."
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. I always love people that talk about like experiencing a race first before they end up signing up for something and like feeling really inspired. So I guess if you remember, like, what were some of the things about the New York City Marathon that you made you want to sign up for a marathon yourself?
It was one woman like specifically who had made the edit, and when she like crossed the finish line, her family was hugging her, and she just had this like glow, this look on her face of accomplishment. And then there was a bunch of other edits once I had looked, and it was, their hands are up in the air and they're crying and people are cheering for them, and they really just did something bigger than themselves, because a marathon it's a movement, for lots of different reasons. So I felt like I wanted to feel something more than sadness, and I wanted to cry for a reason other than being sad and lonely. So yeah, I wanted that so bad that I went after it.
I love that. That's great. Don't love that obviously you were in that spot, but I love that you had like
Yeah.
a thing that you were able to grab onto and like help you, get out of this dark spot that you found yourself in. So I guess from there, what were you thinking? Like, how were you thinking about putting together a plan, or how were you thinking about tackling this thing?
I had no idea. I really didn't.
Yeah.
I think I started with like couch to 5K, and I was like, you know what? Like, this is like, I'm too advanced for this. I wasn't. So I'm just like looking through like Google and stuff, because I didn't know about Run Talk yet. That wasn't even a thing that I had known about to like look for it. So I started training with Runna, because like, the ad was like, they have it all. So I just put in the marathon, because Pittsburgh Marathon is in Runna, and I just started, doing that. It was about a week I was doing couch to 5K, and I went to Runna, and that's what I used. Despite the controversy, that's what I'm still using right now.
Okay, cool. What are some of the things that you feel like that plan, like how did that plan benefit you? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? What were you thinking?
So I really liked that it was all in like one place, the strength training, and it told you exactly what you had to do, and it would talk in your ear, and it was all in like one place where I didn't have to like look up anything else. The whole plan was
Hmm.
there from start to finish. It told me when to run, how fast, how slow. Um, so I'm like a really big person where if I have to look in like more than one place for something, like I get bored of it. Um, so it was convenient. I think that's the biggest thing. What I didn't
Yeah.
like about it, I would say, is it really pushed me to limits that I really couldn't do. And I
Yeah.
think that was user error a little bit because I was like, yeah, I'm not like a total beginner. I ran like 10 years ago and 2 kids ago.
Yeah.
I ended up getting a double stress fracture on both my knees, and I was
Mm.
out of training for I think like 10 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's painful.
it was bad. So I was like, was it me? Was it Rena? Was it like a combination of things? But it kept increasing my pace, and I'm like, I'm not this fast. I can't do
Yeah.
this. But the convenience of it as a new runner who knew absolutely nothing about running, having it all in one place and telling me exactly what to do was kind of why I gravitated towards it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think a lot of people gravitate towards the apps for that reason. It's funny.
Yeah.
I was actually just talking about this on the episode before as well. He was using Rudda, and we were talking a little bit about like how it's these apps are tricky because they can sometimes be a one size fit all, or like they have three buckets that they try to put you in, and
Yeah.
there's hundreds and hundreds of that millions of runners out there, and so trying to like put runners into buckets is always going to be kind of tricky.
Yeah.
So I guess like a little sidebar, I would always say, check with your resources, like check with a
Yeah.
coach if you can, like
Oh yeah.
get a second opinion on the plan, because sometimes it's not you know what I mean, especially for your first
Yeah.
marathon, you don't know anything. So
Nothing.
you're just like relying on the resources you have. And I
Yeah.
did the exact same thing for my first, but um okay, so ended up injuring yourself. I guess
Yeah.
that's a huge knock to the journey. What was the
Yeah.
recovery process like? Like, were you thinking, "Gosh, I can't run this marathon now," or what? How did that all unfold?
So I went straight to my doctor. I was like, I'm having pain in my knees. I'm training for a marathon. Like, what's wrong? And at first she's like, I think it's just shin splints. And I was like, I grew up running. Like, I grew up playing soccer. This is not shin splints. And
Right.
they sent me to a PT. So I did the PT for a little bit. And they were like, you got to take like 6 to 8 weeks off. Like, no running, no activity. They're like, maybe swimming or like even biking. They're like, but you really can't. Um, so I just cried a lot because that was so early on in the plan. I hadn't even run my first half marathon yet.
Right.
Like it's
Right.
around Christmas, and I really wasn't sure what to do. I was like, I told my husband, I was like, I think I'm just gonna quit, and he's like, no. He's like, you just you just bought like $600 worth of shoes. He's like, you're not
You
you're
can't.
not quitting.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of like rehab, a lot of PT, because I didn't know about strength training. Nobody told me about that. Um, and I had just gotten into Run Talk, just started posting like my silly little running videos on TikTok. So I didn't have a big community of people I could reach out to. So I really just took the time off. I walked, I stretched, I did the physical therapy that they told me to do. Um, and then I went back and got more x-rays and everything looked better and I was good to train again. But I didn't want to at that point because I had not ran for
Yeah.
so long. I was like, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. And then I had a half marathon coming up and I was like, I guess I'll run that if I'm feeling
Mm.
better. But it was a lot of physical therapy and I hate that. I don't like people telling me what to do. That's my biggest thing. I was like, man, this goal is over. And obviously it wasn't, but I was devastated at the time.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess after, so you had, or did you say had already signed up for this half marathon, like pre-injury?
I signed up for this half marathon like 3 days after I decided that I was gonna run a marathon because
Gotcha.
I figured like, hey, if I should do a half, I should do something before. Um, so I had a 5K I signed up for and then a half marathon that I did
Okay.
before I even really decided if I was gonna stick with it.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And I guess for this half marathon, yeah, I can imagine your confidence just wasn't, there coming off the injury, and I'm sure you had some doubts in mind. So I guess how were you thinking about not running the race? Were you like, I'm gonna run it and figure it out? Like, what was the planning that went into that half marathon, I guess?
That half marathon was actually like a complete and utter disaster.
Mm,
It was about like 3 days before the race, and that's when I decided that I was gonna do it. It was literally a week
mm,
before. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it, and I'm gonna prove to myself I can do it. If I can run a half marathon, I can run a full marathon, which is what everyone kept telling me. Like 13.1 miles, that's halfway. You can do it. And then the race got canceled.
Mm.
South Carolina got snow. And when I mean
Mm.
snow, I mean like heavy snow. So they canceled the race. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I? I was like, this is a sign. I was like, this is a sign that I should just
Sure.
stop, you know? And a bunch of
Definitely.
people in the area were really mad it got canceled. So they all got together and ran it, but I wasn't feeling confident enough to run with other people. So I got up in the morning, I drove to a place I felt safe, and I ran that half marathon completely by myself in the ice and the snow. And it
Good for
was
you.
so bad. It was so bad. I cried for hours afterwards, not just from the pain, because I hadn't worked my way up completely. I had missed half of that training block for that. Um, but that's kind of when I knew that I wasn't going to stop running, that I was going to keep going, that I wanted to
Yeah.
run the marathon. And I signed up for that marathon about 2 weeks after. And
Okay.
I wasn't planning on running a marathon until 2026.
Gotcha.
And I
Okay.
signed up for 2025.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So yeah, so this half marathon, I mean, sounds like it wasn't the most ideal first half marathon
No.
experience, but what were some things, I mean, you still said that you felt motivated after to sign up
Yeah.
for the marathon. So I guess what did you take from that first half marathon that you were like, okay, I can do a marathon, you know?
Um, Well, for one, I knew that if I could do it by myself, I could do it with a crowd. Because at that
Cool.
point,
That's a
I had
great
heard
mindset.
that
Yeah.
the crowds and the adrenaline that you get from a race day with people really drags you through. And I think that's true. Um, but yeah, I was just in the woods running by myself. I had a lot of time to think. And I think it was 11.2. I called my husband. My legs hurt, my feet hurt. I was cold, I was wet. I'm hysterical. I'm like, I'm done. And he's like,
Mm.
no. He's like, you can do this. He's like, you need to prove it to yourself that you can do this. You want to run a marathon, you have to do this. So I'm literally like crawling. I'm crawling on the ground. I'm crying. There's people running by me, like, and I'm like, look at these people. I can't do this. And then I was like, but what if I can? Like, what if I just got up? What if I just started running? What if I just, forgot about the pain and just, let my mind or my body take me, whichever one works best, to get me there. And I realized I could do it. Like, there was nothing I couldn't do. The only thing holding me back was doubts. Nobody was telling me I couldn't. I had people cheering me on. So I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna get
Yeah.
up off the ground and I'm gonna suck it up. I signed up for this. I have a medal in the car waiting for me to wear, and I'm just gonna do it. And it
Yeah.
was the medal. It was the medal. I wanted to take that photo with my medal to tell people I did it. But I really just decided which part of was it my mind or my body that was gonna get up off the ground first, which one was gonna push me forward, and I was just putting all of my extra energy into whichever one. And it was my mind that got me there, not my body,
Mm.
but it carried me
Mm.
the rest of the way.
Yeah, no, I love that you said that. I think that's so important to like distinguish the body from the mind,
Yeah.
especially when you're training for like first races, because you don't know what it feels like to push through something hard. Like you haven't proved it to yourself yet. So you
Yeah.
can't rely on that, on like
No.
experience. You have to just rely on like grit and getting yourself through.
Yep.
So I love that you were able to separate the two. And it sounds like once you proved to yourself that you could run that half marathon, you were like, yeah, like you said, like I can do anything.
Yeah.
So the marathon's a good next step. From there, I guess walk us through what happened from there. So you ran the first half marathon, and then how did we get from half marathon to like marathon training or continuing training, I should say?
So I was like, well, like I did this half marathon. I signed up for Pittsburgh. I was like, let's look into a marathon plan. And I think Rena's was 18 weeks. And I still had a
Mm.
lot of time because it was January. So I was a little bit behind. I think I did the 16-week plan. And I was like, well, I wonder like what a real race experience is like. What is it like to run with other people? Because I figured if I'm going to be running this giant marathon with 40,000 plus people, I should probably dip my feet in the water, figure out what that's like. So I signed up for a 5K and fell in love with the distance. Um, so I was doing training. I think I was doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday of running, and then like Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday were off days. So I was only running
Mm.
3 days a week with no strength training because I really didn't know about that yet. So I was
Sure,
just
sure.
running my little 5Ks, and doing training for that and trying to figure out fueling, which I think is the hardest part of marathon training. I'll run 16 miles for fun. That's perfectly fine. But figuring out how fueling works, that was like that took more than the actual running itself.
Yeah. Yeah, dialing in fuel can be a whole thing. And
Oh,
yeah, like you said, for your first marathon, like it's a not only a hard task to tackle, but it's also like
yeah,
learning a completely new skill on top of
yeah.
training for a marathon. So it adds this whole other layer. I guess what were you researching at the time, if anything, like about fueling, what works, what doesn't work, that kind of thing?
So like my worry with fueling was like the carbs. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like what carbs do I
yeah.
need? How many carbs do I need? And when I was training for the half marathon leading up to Pittsburgh, I think it was goo I was using and UCAN. And I was like, I'm suffering here. These are so bad. Like they're not helping me. I was like, what do I
Yeah.
even do? So I was just literally using anything and everything. I was looking up like my weight divided by carbs, divided by fitness and calories burned. And I was like, this is just suffering. This is terrible. And I learned very, very quickly that I am not like a gel girly.
Mm, yeah.
I'm not a candy girly. I am like a liquid carbs person. So I like to use my
Sure.
fuel is all liquid. I don't use like any actual food. Um, and I was looking up that and I found a few good options that I tried out. But then the issue with like fueling with liquid is like going to the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was like another thing. So I ended up contacting like a health and fitness coach who I currently am working with to this day to figure out my macros, to be able to figure out what my body needs exactly so that I can calculate my carbs. So for me personally, I need 65 grams of carbs an hour to be able to run at my
Yeah.
max capacity, which is crazy to me that I'm burning that off so quickly. Um, so right now I use Humagel. That's what I'm using,
Cool.
which
I love Cuba.
I love it. It's the only one that doesn't make me sick. Like I took a UCAN gel before my half marathon and I was puking by mile five.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
just because some of them are just not good and they're,
Yeah.
like especially with so I'm looking at like what sugars they use and how many carbs they use and caffeine versus non-caffeine. Um, and I think I had spent like $300 on gels that I just gave away to the runners in my neighborhood because I just did not like them and I didn't know what to do with them.
Yeah, no, it's so tricky, and it's like there's so many factors that go into fuel, like you were saying. Like some ingredients might mess up your stomach. It could be the
Yep.
caffeine level, it could be the texture, it could be the type of gel. So yeah, there's so many different things. But like it's cool that you ended up working with a nutritionist. I think that's unique. That you were able to like dial it in that way. But I think
Yeah.
for a lot of people, trial and error that like
Yeah.
is going to be your
Mm-hmm.
best friend.
Yep.
Try everything, and as soon as you have something that you like
Yep.
flip it over, look at the nutrition facts, figure out what's in there that made you feel good, and then try to replicate that. But
Yep.
it can be so tricky. It probably took me 2 years before I into running until I was like, I know what I like and what is good on my stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm barely there. I mean, for me, like sometimes a butter pecan iced coffee from Dunkin' Donuts gets me good for a run. And
yeah,
sometimes I
yeah,
need like a whole packet of, salt sticks and like six Huma gels and like you really just never really know when you're first beginning. And I'm still figuring it out. Like I found
yeah.
companies that I like, but now it's just dialing in of like I'm doing 4 races over 4 days, so the fueling has to be perfect. And I think it's so complicated, but I also think that I overthink it a lot,
Sure,
you know?
sure, yeah. And I'm sure that you did quite a bit of overthinking, as we all do, for your first marathon.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
guess, yeah, what were some of the other things that you were learning about or researching or like overthinking maybe a little bit for as you kind of progress through training?
Shoes. Shoes
Mm,
is a big one for me. I actually love it. Was looking at shoes, what they do, how they work, like what runs they work for. Um, and that was one of the biggest things I researched, along with clothing. What shorts don't chafe me, what sports bras don't have them hitting me in the face, like what socks are going to keep my feet dry. So a lot of it wasn't even the running itself at that point because, I wasn't really worried about that for some reason. I was looking into
yeah.
how to stay comfortable because I have a lot of anxiety while running. And if my
Mm,
pants move an inch, I'm done. I quit. I'm not doing it anymore. If my shoes aren't
mm,
comfortable, I quit. I'm not doing it anymore. Um, a lot into gear. and a lot into now at least strength training. But then it was gear. I mean, headphones that work best, shoes that work best, and I pride myself in knowing more information about running shoes than I probably need to. That's
Yeah.
why I own like 8 pairs of them.
Yeah.
It's a bad habit. Also, I looked a lot into the marathon itself, learned the courses, learned the elevation changes, hill repeats. Um, and I volunteered at a few races and kind of like stalked people on the course. How are they running? How's their running form? What are their arms doing?
Mm,
Like their breathing techniques. So I went and people watched, especially when I was running races, kind of learning everything that I felt like I needed to know to be able to run a marathon. Um, and a lot of it I started to practice and a lot of it I didn't. But I worked on my running form, researched into that, looked into shoes that would work best for me, clothes that would work best for me. Um, you know, what motivates me, a lot of research and looking deep in to find what made me feel good while running so I could keep going. Um,
yeah.
but mostly it was researching and making it work on when I can run and how I'm going to do that with 2 kids and a
Yeah.
husband who works 80, 90 hours a week. Um, so that was like the most research I did. And uh, I mean, from there, I figured a lot of stuff out with that. And at the same time, absolutely nothing.
Sure. Because there's so much out there.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like, what do you need? What don't you need? What is
Yeah.
people on the internet selling you? What's aesthetic versus non-aesthetic? Um, what are the influencers doing? Because
Yeah.
sometimes I
And what can I
watch,
trust
what can I
from the
trust?
influencers?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, what can I trust? And like now with influencers, I kind of like, if you're trying to sell me something, I don't trust you already. Like, I'm like,
Right. Right. Yes.
let me try this out for myself. But it was a lot of just like learning because I had bought my first pair of running shoes based off of the social media. And I will admit that I'm buying my second pair of those shoes because I ended up loving them.
Yeah.
But I was just
That's
thinking
good.
like your research should not be based on, influencers. And that's when I really jumped into Run Talk. And a lot of my research was on I don't want to call them small creators. They're not small creators, but like
Yeah.
smaller following creators and what they were doing and how they were fueling.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
relied a lot on them.
that's cool. No, I love that. Yeah, it's like the community aspect is so important in
Yeah.
running, like being able to find a community. But I talk about all the time, like it's not just finding a community; it's finding a community that one you can see yourself in, like
Yeah.
you see yourself in the people that you're following, or you could see yourself becoming somebody that you're following.
Yeah.
And then two, you need to find somebody that like makes you feel good about yourself, like not like you were saying, not just pushing any product or taking any brand deal
Yes.
just because I think you can kind of feel out the people that are inauthentic for sure, like on social media.
Yeah.
But the people that are either promoting the things that you can see that they're actually using, or the people that you can see yourself in and you can relate to, like that's the community you want to find, not just the
Yes.
massive community where everybody's finding all of their running information, because that's where it can get a little
Yeah.
sticky. But I remember feeling exactly like you training for my first
Yes.
marathon of like, there's so many things out here that I can look into and get into, but I don't even know where to start. Like
Yeah.
there's it's too many inputs, and so it can get a little overwhelming. Um, I love that you were a student of the sport, though, is what I really wanted to say. Like
Yeah.
you really dove in and you were like, I'm gonna figure this out, and I love
Yeah.
that. I guess how did that help you? I know you said that it like comes from maybe a place of anxiety and like wanting to know a lot, but I'm sure that some of that research ended up helping you. So like what
Oh,
benefits
yeah.
did you get from diving into Run Talk and like really being a student?
Um, So my race form specifically, and I remember I would love to remember her name, but I had gotten a pair of carbon plated shoes. I didn't know they were carbon plated. I
Mm.
had zero clue that these were carbon plated. They were cute. They were, you know, cushioned. I was like, so I put a post on TikTok and someone's like, "How are you running in these like so well?" And I was like, "They're shoes." And she's like, "No, that's carbon plated. Like, you have to have good running form to be able to just effortlessly zoom past that." And that's when I realized I was like running form. That's something I was working on and like watching people do. I was like, I think I got that. And then my first long run was 6 miles, which doesn't seem like a lot for a long run.
Sure.
Um, but I came back from it and like I wasn't exhausted like I was running for my 2 or 3 miles. So I was like, oh, this like I got this fuel idea from someone on Run Talk and I'm using it and it's working. And I
Yeah.
think I get a lot of my motivation from Run Talk too. That's where I got a lot of my confidence. People are like, you can do this, like you got this, and I'm watching other people struggle, which sounds terrible, but like that's what gets me going on days,
Yeah. You know, it's not just you. You're like, oh,
no,
this
yeah.
happens to everybody. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally
Like
agree.
on days that I don't want to run or days that I'm lacking motivation or days that I just don't think I can do it, I go back to Run Talk because I learned that those are the people I can rely on. And I have
Yeah.
a handful of followers that I interact with all the time and I follow them. Um, and that's where that's a lot of what I learned is I can lean on that community. My form is better. My outfits are a little bit more comfortable and all of that I learned from people watching.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. So yeah, I can see where that definitely benefited you as you were moving through training. I guess where in your marathon training journey did you feel like you had those like learning lessons? So like the big run where, maybe it taught you, but you built some confidence or maybe it knocked your confidence down a little bit. Like what were some of the big points in training for your first marathon that you remember?
My first run past 13 miles, I think it was like 14.2 miles, is where I learned that I can do a marathon. That's where like it solidified it for me. And I know it's only a
Mm.
mile extra, but I was like, I can do this. And then it
Mhm.
was my 20-mile run that was like the big, like right before my taper. That was my longest run. And I had did the 20 miles and I kind of like walked in the door, like kind of like, oh, I could run a marathon. I can do this. Like now I know I can. And then it was right in the middle. I think it was, I'm gonna say March, when I was like talking to my husband and my family, and we're making plans. They're like, we're gonna have people here, and we're gonna have people here, you know, and I was making like spectator kits for them, and like I was
Oh,
finalizing my
cute.
outfits, and I was finalizing like my trip plans. And that's when it kind of hit me. I was like, I'm running this marathon. I believe I can do it, and I know I can do it. And I've already told like 2,000 people that I can do it. So I don't have a choice at this point. Um,
Yeah.
but those were kind of like the moments I remember the most of like, yeah, I can do this. I can run this. I got it. And then taper
Yeah.
hit. And then everything goes down the drain when you taper. Nobody told me that. Nobody warned me. Nobody warned me about that. And, I'd love
Yeah.
to say the taper made me excited, but it was just dreadful the whole time.
I agree. I am not a good taperer either. I've
No.
never liked it. Some people love
Mm-mm.
it. But no, I 100% agree with you. I guess before taper, like where was your top run? Was it 20 miles? Is that where you
It
peaked
was
out?
20 miles was my peak at that point. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
How was that run? Because that run is always the one. Like I agree with you. I think my first like milestone for my first marathon was that first one after 13. That's like the charted territory and then the uncharted
Yeah.
territory. But I remember the 20 miler. I being super nervous and that being kind of a game changer. So what was that run like for you?
It was better than my first half marathon, but I think physically my body was doing better than my mind. My body carried me
Mm,
through that run. Um, because I start off too fast as always. So once I hit that like 5 mile mark, I was dragging and I wasn't fueling properly. I was just so nervous and I had my little vest on and I like realized, oh crap, I didn't pack my correct fuel. Like I don't have enough fuel. And oh man, I forgot my water bottle at home. And it was just a mess after mess after mess.
mm,
Um, the outfit that I picked for my marathon wasn't comfortable. Learned that at mile 15. I was
mm.
chafing everywhere. Um, and I was really nervous for that one because I've never ran that far in my life. I didn't have a plan for it because I wasn't going to do it to begin with. It wasn't,
Right, right.
I wasn't even going to do it. And it was the longest. I think it almost took as long as my marathon time did. I think it was like 6 hours and 30 minutes I spent running, which is
Yeah.
my marathon time was not even 6 hours. It took forever. I stopped a lot and I was like, well, I did it. It sucked, but I did it. And I hope my race isn't like this.
Right.
because anything, I don't know why I was so nervous, because I was running a marathon anyway. So I kind of like didn't have a choice but to run that. But that one
Yep.
was really rough. I
Yeah.
made a lot of mistakes. I messed up a lot of things. I walked most of it. But I did it, and that's what kind of got me. It doesn't really matter how you get there as long as you get there. That's what I kept
Totally.
thinking. Like, it doesn't matter. I finished it. That was it.
Totally. Yeah. And I say this now like 4 marathons in, but I definitely wasn't saying this for my first marathon, but for
Yeah.
now a couple in, like I know now that those runs are what teach you so much more and like end up
Yes.
being the important runs when you're training for a marathon. So, for your first marathon, you can feel like, oh my, like I'm not going to be able to run this marathon. Like that did not go. I got it done, but gosh, like this is going
Yeah.
to be hard. But once you're like you've done it and you're a couple in, then you can look at that and be like, okay, like yeah, that sucked. It took me a lot longer than I thought it was going to, but I was able to practice my mental toughness. I was able to practice fueling. Like you said, I was able to narrow down my race outfit. I now know this doesn't work for me. That's like just
Yeah.
as important, to
Yeah.
test before race day, so you're not
Oh,
finding out
yeah.
at the marathon. So yeah, I think that those runs really teach you a lot. Did you feel like that? Like I
Oh,
guess once
yeah.
now that you've been able to like reflect on it, did you feel
Oh,
like that taught
yeah.
you a lot? Yeah,
Oh, yeah, because I took everything I messed up on that run, and I did not bring that with me to Pittsburgh. I left that in
totally.
a box locked underneath my bed, and that run was so bad that like I didn't even record it. I didn't even take a single selfie. I didn't say this was great. I was like, I'm not putting this on the internet. That one was for me. That
Hmm.
one was for me, and I wasn't going to show anybody else that, mostly because of how treacherous it was. But yeah, I
Hmm.
left everything from that run behind except for the mindset of I did it. Doesn't matter how you get there, you got there.
Yeah.
Um, and I was just praying that it wasn't going to take me that long to run the actual marathon because I still had 10K to go after that.
Sure.
Yeah, so I mean, but yeah, I mean, the outfit changed it, the fuel, made sure I packed it, made sure I had it, which I still didn't do for my marathon, but that's for later. Made sure that everything I did wrong, I did right in the marathon. Um,
Totally.
so that was like kind of like my moment of like, yeah, I can run a marathon now. I did my 20 miles. Now I'm gonna taper. I'm done. And I'm just gonna save it all for race day. Take what I learned and take that with me upstate.
Awesome. Cool. I love that. All right, sweet. Well, we know taper you were feeling like we said, like taper is a whole other
Yeah.
world, but I guess once we were getting to the end of taper and you were getting closer to race day, how were you feeling? Nervous, excited? What was going through your mind like maybe the couple of days leading up to the race?
I was a nervous wreck. I was like I had too much caffeine. I was shaking all the time and I was like repacking everything because we drove up. So I had to pack for the stay. I had to pack, make sure I had everything.
Yeah.
And then like late at night, I'm just laying in bed with restless legs, kind of like imagining what it felt like to cross that finish line. And that's what really kept me sane. It's like, what's it going to feel like? How am I going to feel? Um, and it was like the night before the race. I actually slept the best I had slept that whole training cycle because I finally was just like, I'm just going to go to sleep. If I don't go to sleep, I'm done.
Yeah.
Um, but I was a nervous wreck. I was thinking of like not doing it. Like, what if I just went up to Pittsburgh with my bib and like just disappeared and just went
Mm,
somewhere else and didn't run it?
sure.
Like the doubts really came in, but then it was also like a mix of excitement. Like, oh man, I can do this. I can do this. And then like, oh no, I have to. I don't have a choice but to do this.
Yeah, we're here.
It wasn't until I was like in my corral that I was like, oh, I'm so excited. But before that, like even walking because for some reason my friends and my husband made me park like 2 miles away from where I had to be, and they're like, "Oh, you gotta get your legs
Criminal.
going." Yeah, imagine like walking back,
Oh
uphill
my
after
gosh, yeah.
running a hilly marathon. I was like, I'm gonna kill you guys. But that really gave me like a lot of time to reflect. But yeah, I was a wreck completely. And my running bestie, Edith, who's been my rock through all of this running, I was like texting her, like, I ain't doing this. I don't want to do this. I was
Yeah.
like, please tell me something. She's like, you don't got a choice. You have to do it
You
now.
have to do it. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Well, glad you were able to kind of build some excitement once you got to the
Yes.
start line. So start line experience is always very exciting. Like you've got everybody around you. The you're kind of like slowly inching your way to the start line. Like it's all very exciting.
Yes.
Um, and then like yeah, let's break down the race. So I'll let you kind of choose how you want to break it up. But maybe we start with the first half. What was the first half marathon like?
It was actually amazing. It was the best running I've ever felt. It was just the city itself is just electric and they put so much pride into it. So when I'm at the start line and I'm like walking away from my husband, like I'm super nervous. Um, and something that I really wanted to talk about is what I did before I even started running. I recorded in my like voice memo app a letter to read at the start line that I wrote right before
Mm.
the race. And it kind of talked about like, here you are, you know, you can do this. Like, this is me past you, telling you that you're able to do this. Look around you, soak it in, cry if you have to, you know, just look at the sun, feel it on your face, just a lot of things that I wanted to tell myself. And it really pumped me up. I was crying, but a lot of people were
I
crying
love
at the
that.
start line. A lot of people were
Yeah.
crying, and it was so nice. Um, yeah, it was amazing. I mean, the weather was perfect. It wasn't too hot, it wasn't too cold. And I really held on to the point that all of my friends, my best friends and my family were at mile 9. So I was just partying until then, like run walking,
Yeah.
eating the gummy worms, high-fiving kids. Um, and it was so easy. And I was thinking like, well, this is great. Like the whole marathon's gonna feel like this. I can just feel it. Um, Seeing the city I grew up in, because I grew up in Pittsburgh. I lived there. I
Mm.
was born in Pittsburgh. I moved away when I was 20. So that was the city I had spent my
That's very
childhood
cool.
in. Yes, that's
Yeah.
where all my friends and family lived. That's where all my friends and people were. That's why I picked Pittsburgh to begin with, you know.
Gotcha.
And I'm taking in the sights of the city I grew up in and the places I used to hang out as a kid and,
Yeah.
all the people around me. Pittsburgh's a great city. Um, and I was just going. I had a plan for this marathon though, which was like I wanted to do it in 5 hours. I laugh about it now. Um, but like mile 8 was kind of where I realized I was not going to run a 5 hour marathon.
Mm.
Because the 5 hour pacers were probably an hour ahead of me. And then the
Mm.
5:30 pacers were catching up to me. And that's kind of like when the reality set in of like, I'm not going to hit the goal I had set for myself. Um, and then the 6 hour pacers came creeping up, and I spent that whole half marathon running away from them. And it
Ugh,
was absolutely exhausting. Like, I
I'm
would
sure.
run, take a break, they'd catch up to me, run, take a break, they would catch up to me. And then I saw my family at mile 9. Um, and my husband was there, my kids were there, my best friends were there, all my siblings were there. They carried my kid throughout the city. Um, and that was just the boost I needed. I mean, I took half my clothes off at that point. My shirt was off. I was in a sports bra. I chugged my Red Bull, which was so needed because I did not pack any of my caffeine fuel. I had nothing.
Mm. Yeah.
I got to see my kids and it was just such a great experience. And then I kept going and we went over the bridge and um some people call it the doom hill because like when you're running, like this is you, this is the ground, and you're running and all of a sudden this is you and you're looking up and there's this gigantic hill taking you into Oakland and you're like, absolutely not. And
You're like,
finally
I'll actually
this
turn around.
no, I was like, oh my gosh, because there were hills all around. Pittsburgh's super
Sure.
hilly to begin with. But yeah, this was like, I think it was off the Birmingham Bridge, and you're just looking straight up, and you're literally like tilting your head back, looking. And the
Hmm.
6 hour pacers were behind me, and they're like, are you going to join us, or are you going to do that by yourself? And I was like, oh no, I'm joining you. And that's when I joined.
Nice.
That's when I joined the Pacers. Because I just want to tell people that there's no shame in that, doing it by yourself.
No.
Because I was doing it by myself, and I don't know why I didn't join them earlier. Because they had amazing tips and tricks, and one of them kept talking about Run Disney with me to keep me, pretty occupied. But the first half was really good. I joined the Pacers, I saw my family, I did a party pace. Um, and it was literally mile 14 that I had to lock in at that point. It wasn't fun anymore. It was survival mode
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And what mile did you say that was at where you started to like
Four,
lock in?
14. It was literally
14.
14. Yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh my God.
Here we go. Race
Here
starts
we
now.
go. I was like,
Uh,
I can't quit because I was like, if I'm gonna quit, like if I decide I can't do this, I'm gonna quit at the half marathon. I'm just gonna because they
Yeah.
go different courses because the half marathon goes this way and you go that way. I was like, I'll just join the
Uh,
half marathon. But I'm like so confident. I was really feeling myself, and I was like, I'm gonna stick with the Pacers and I'm gonna run the full thing. And when you see mile 14, you're like, oh well, the half marathon's over. Now I have to actually finish this. And
yeah,
that was like the big like shock to me at that point.
totally. Yeah, yeah. Cool. So yeah, you're in it now. You're past the half
I'm in
marathon
it.
point. You said that you were planning on staying with the 6 hour pacer, so I guess kind of yeah, continue from there. Like, did we stick with them for quite a bit of time, or what happened
Yes,
from there?
yes. I stuck with them until the last point 0.2 miles of the marathon.
Nice.
So they had a lot of good techniques. I learned a lot. Like the one thing I tell people is like lick yourself, and they're like, "What?" And but that's what they taught me. Lick yourself. If you're salty, you need electrolytes. You need to
Mm.
add more electrolyte fuel. They had a stop at every single aid station, which back I was like, nah, I don't need this. Yes, I did. That's what helped in my recovery the most. Um, and then after every mile, they had a different letter. And they're like, oh, like mile, I can't even tell you the alphabet right now, but like, oh, mile one is A. Tell me some things that start with the letter A. Tell me some foods. And that's kind of like a
Yeah.
distraction. It was an amazing distraction from because you're seeing the numbers and you're like, oh God, we still have 10 to go. But when you're talking about things that aren't running, you know, and they did different stretching along the routes and they did the run walk method.
Mm.
And I hated it.
Did
And just
you?
now, it gave me so much anxiety because the only thing that I could focus on when I was doing the running part was when I could stop. And I was
Ah,
like,
I see.
yeah, now I love it. That's what I'm using to like finish my base off before training. But they were really nice. And, one of them was pacing her first marathon, which was super cool.
That's
Um,
really cool.
and then I think it was mile 20 was when I started to lose my absolute mind. And that's when the pacer kind of noticed because people broke off. There was me and another girl, I think her name was Caitlin. She was like my marathon buddy. I'll probably never see her again. Um, but that's when people started like breaking off. And like I kept thinking about it, like, should I just break off and do the rest of this marathon alone? And they're like, well, this is the time to do it because they didn't want us breaking away before that. They wanted to at least get us to the last 10K.
Yeah.
But I stayed with them the rest of the time, and I ended up being at the front of the line, the front of the little, like, with the Pacers themselves, and I'm having a conversation with them, and I'm running with Caitlin, I think her name is. And that's like when I had realized one, I'm gonna finish this marathon, and two, I have to finish this marathon. Mile 20 was also when I saw my husband, maybe 18 or 20 is when I saw my husband and my best friend because they biked the whole city of Pittsburgh to meet me at different places.
Oh, that's so
One
sweet.
of them, my best friend was pregnant doing that.
Dang. Good
My
for her.
husband was like biking all around Pittsburgh and I saw them and they're like, "Oh, come grab this stuff." And like I was crying. Like it makes me emotional thinking about it. I'm like, if I stop, I'm done. I'm not continuing. I'm gonna stay with you guys. So I can't. I'm sorry. I can't stop. I'm hysterical. And the Pacers even asked me, like, if you stop and see them, are you gonna continue with us? And like without even thinking, I was like, no.
Mm.
I wasn't even like that was in the back of my mind. I brought it to my subconscious that like up in the front of my mind that if I stop and see them, I'm not gonna keep going. I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna make them take me home. It
Right.
was very
Right.
dramatic. I'm like, no, 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 I'm sorry, I can't. I'm hysterically crying. So they jump off their bikes and they follow me about, I want to say, half a mile, making sure that like I am getting the fuel that I needed and making sure I have my emotional support Red Bull. And
Yeah.
um, I was eating out of a bag of chips I had saved from mile 11, the only real food I had eaten. Um, and that's kind of like when I realized I'm going to do this, but I have to do this. And we were so close, but so far away. And that's something that people told me is like, you hit that wall.
Yeah.
They said around like 20 to 22 miles, you kind of hit that wall. You know that you're there, but you're also not there. You still have miles to go. So then I had to decide, like, you know, am I going to DNF or am I going to keep going? Because at that point, my knees were hurting, my feet were hurting. It had poured down rain, so everything was wet. I was rubbing. I don't know where the angel that came out of the sky with the Vaseline came from, but I just looked to my side and there's this woman with a stick of Vaseline. Um, yeah, it was nurses from one of the clinics down there that had like
Oh,
Vaseline on
nice.
popsicle sticks, and they're just like glowing in the sunlight that finally came out. And I was like, oh, my saviors. Like,
Yeah, right.
yeah, the little girl with the gummy bear, and then my brother and sister-in-law and my niece and nephew, and then my husband's cousin and his son and his girlfriend. They were waiting around mile 21. And my niece handed me an applesauce packet, and that like was a complete lifesaver. Um, and then finally we're at the home stretch and I have to go to the bathroom. And I just know that if I stop and go to the bathroom, I'm not going to be able to keep up with the Pacers and they're going to be
Yeah,
gone and I'm going to be all alone.
yeah.
So I stopped because I don't want to pee myself. I really don't. I would have, but like I didn't know people did that. Now I will. I just will. I don't care
Now,
now.
now you're out. You're in. Yeah.
And I stop at the porta potty with this guy, and it's just one porta potty, and he lets me go first. And I was like, "Thank you, thank you. Here's some fuel for you, sir." Um, and I can see the Pacers going down the hill. So I did what any sane person would do, and I rolled. I actually barrel rolled down most of that
Oh
hill
my
to make it to the
gosh.
Pacers, and then I got up and kept running. I don't care what people say about that.
Oh
I
my
don't know how,
gosh.
because I was completely alone. There was nobody behind me. There was no one in front of me but the Pacers.
Yeah.
You know, I literally rolled partially down that hill
Oh
and to
my
get to the
gosh.
Pacers on time, and I don't care what Strava thinks of that. I don't care what anybody thinks of that because at that point, like that was the only way I was going to finish. And
Yeah.
I finally made it back to them, and it was mile, I think, 24. And, they're kind of like, we're in the home stretch now. And I was like, really? Are you sure? You said that like 4 miles ago that we're in the home stretch. Like they're like, this is the last hill. This is the last area before you enter the city again. And then
Yeah.
you'll be at that finish line. So I I completely zoned out. And that's what I kind of learned during my half marathon is like, what's going to carry me here? Is it my mind or is it my body? Which one do I put effort into preserving and which one do I put effort into moving? And at that point, my mind was kind of gone. So I put all my effort into my body. I zoned out and I kind of just locked in and I let my body carry me through those last few miles, which I should have done hours before. Because at this point, I had been running for almost 6 hours. It was like 5 hours and 30 something minutes with two
Yeah.
miles left. The Pacers were like, if you want to break away, you have our blessing. Good luck. You guys are going to do amazing. I kept with them. I stayed with the Pacers entering the city. And it was kind of looped. So I was back at the beginning. I had ran this already, just going in the opposite direction. Um, and I was like, I'm so close. I'm so close. I'm so close. That's what I just kept thinking. And my body just kept moving. And then finally, it's point two. It's 26 miles. I hit 26 miles. There's point two to go. I break away from the Pacers. And I was like, I think I'm gonna break away. And they're like, okay, you got it. And I'm like running away, like, bye, thank you so much. Like, I'm
Yeah.
hysterically crying. I was like, thank you guys. And I go. When you're running, the freaking finish line's curved. So you
Mm.
can't see it. You can't see
Mm.
anything.
Yeah, to turn. Yeah, yeah.
So as I was running, I couldn't see the finish line. And I was losing motivation because I couldn't see anything. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know where the turn was. And I see my dad. And I hear my dad in the crowd telling me, it's around the corner. It's around the corner. Sorry, this makes me emotional.
No,
Um,
yeah, you're fine.
because my dad is one of like my biggest supporters, and he actually didn't get surgery for cancer to be at my first marathon.
Oh, that's
Um,
amazing.
my dad was he knew, I think he knew somehow that I was gonna feel the way I felt because he was there at point 2 miles and he's like, you gotta keep going, you gotta keep going. It's right around the corner, and he didn't get to see me finish, but he got me there, so I think that's what he's proud of. And finally, I turn the corner and I see the finish line, and for some reason it's only like point 0.1 miles, but it's like forever. And I see my family on the side of the stands and they're all there and they're cheering for me. And I didn't want to cross the finish line with my water bottle for some reason. Beyond me, I tossed it to him, almost hit my son in the face. And then I was like, um, I don't know where to go from here. I'm just going to go straight. And I crossed and I did it. And I just remember looking up at the sky and thinking like, oh my God, I just finished my first marathon. I just did this. And all the emotions that I thought that I was going to experience, I did. I felt that all, everything. It was everything I dreamed of, everything I worked for. You know, I went from this depressed postpartum mom sitting on the couch doom scrolling, wanting to feel something to feeling it. And it really was everything that I imagined it would be. The sense of
Yeah.
pride, the sense of self-worth, getting that medal, hearing my family and random people scream for me, hearing my name announced. It was everything.
That's amazing. You're making
Yeah.
I'm tearing up
I'm
a
sorry.
little bit. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, like I was getting emotional as you were saying it
Oh,
because for one, to take it back, I like wrote myself a little note because I didn't want to forget it. But gosh, how many of us have that feeling at like mile 20, 21, 22, right? Like where you're so far into the race, but you still have doubt that you're gonna quit.
yeah.
Like it always every time somebody talks about it, it always blows my mind because it's like how the crazy like how crazy our minds are to tell us that we can't do something when we're
Yeah.
95% of the way through it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's insane. So
It's
I mean,
crazy.
and then you just have to rely on anything and everything to
Yes.
push yourself through. And I love that you were telling yourself like mantras, like keep
Yeah.
moving forward. You got this, like telling yourself things. And then your dad, like it always seems
Oh
like
my God.
people or things or signs or whatever, like it always feels like there's something at the right moment when you need it, and it sounds like your dad was there at the
Yeah.
moment that you needed somebody
Yeah.
to push
I
you.
mean,
Yeah.
he knew I'm a daddy's girl, and I'm sure my mom also told him to meet me there, but
Yeah.
seeing him was everything I needed to just finish, because I didn't know where I was going, and like my mind was gone at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that like I really do. It's always something. It's always like the perfect timing. It's exactly there when you need it. And then getting to the finish line and like the full circle moment for you. Like the first almost one of the first things that you said on here was like I watched that marathon and I knew I wanted to feel that experience. So like the fact that you got to experience that is so full circle, and I'm so happy that you had the opportunity to experience something like that. And
Yeah.
I always like to ask when somebody comes on the show and they talk about these full circle moments and talk about how much that like finish line moment meant to them. Um, what did it mean to you? Like you talked, you know what I mean? I know that's a really broad question, but like, what did that
Well,
mean to you? What were you carrying with you on the other side of that finish line?
I was carrying everything. I was carrying my motherhood. I was carrying the small child in me. I was carrying a woman who sacrificed everything to have the family she has. And I mean, I had sacrificed so much to even run. I was carrying not smoking on my back. I was carrying eating healthy, my husband, my kids, I was carrying the depression, the postpartum depression, which loomed so much through my training. And it was kind of like, ha, I did it.
Yeah.
I did it for myself. And I said I was going to do something, and I did it. And it meant everything. It really did.
Yeah.
Because I was more than a mom. I was Rebecca. I was a marathoner at that point. I had a title that meant more than just something domestic. I
Yeah.
was I was a I was a person in that moment. I was just me with my goals that I just completed.
Yeah. I love that. Oh, you're gonna make me cry. So
I'm
I love it
sorry.
so much. No, you're so fine. And what an incredible example for your kids too. I
Oh
wanted to
my
ask
gosh,
about
yeah.
I wanted to ask about that a little bit if you're okay with that. Like
Mhm.
going back towards through training, like I'm sure you had to
Mhm.
make so many sacrifices.
Oh yeah.
So like if you could offer, like a piece of advice for another mom who might be in the same position as you, thinking like, I can't dedicate this time to myself, or I don't believe in myself enough to do something like this. Like what's some advice that you might offer, a mom that might be in that position?
I will tell all running moms that you will find a way because you're worth it. You are worth it. Your goals are worth it. Um, I took my son in the stroller. I ran in the middle of the night. I ran in the early morning. I got a treadmill, a dinosaur of a treadmill. Um, I made myself worth it, and I didn't care what I had to do it. the mindset that I tell like all running moms is you will figure it out because you're worth it and you know that you're worth it. And if you don't know, you know now because you are. And you'll
Yeah.
find a way. A lot of it was pushing in a stroller, early mornings, late nights, treadmill runs, um, using my son as a weight to lift, taking my kids with me, or just asking for the people around me to help me. Because I don't have any friends or family down here. It's just me and my kids and my husband.
Yeah.
Um, and I tell people this all the time. I had a mom I was talking to a few weeks ago. She's like, "Oh, well, my husband." I said, "I don't care about your husband. I care about you. You tell your
Yeah.
husband that he's going to sit with these kids for a few hours and you're going to go
Yeah.
running. That's what you're going to do." Um, but yeah, I tell people you'll figure it out. I don't know how you're going to figure it out, and you might not know how to figure it out, but you are worth it, so you're going to do it for yourself because
Yeah.
that's what really matters.
Love that. I love that so much. And I hear, I'm not a mom myself, but I hear a lot when I like ask these questions to moms who are runners, like it helps you show up differently for your kids as well.
Oh
Did
my
you feel like
gosh,
that?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was just talking to someone about this. I became more patient with my kids because I had me time. I mean, we started eating healthier as a family. We started
Yeah.
working out. My husband bought a bike. My kids come to the races and they cheer on other racers. They want to run. They want to be more active. I mean, my daughter once signed up for a sport. I mean, I show
Nice.
up better for my kids because I'm active now, you know. I can keep up with them, more patient with them. I'm making healthier meals. We're eating as a family. We're making better choices as a family. It really transformed our family dynamic in a way I never thought it would.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for telling your first marathon
Yeah.
story and just breaking all of that down and also just like being a little vulnerable with us. I always appreciate
Yeah.
when somebody's like willing to show the rawness of running a marathon because it really is that. It's like it's raw and it's emotional and it's personal and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I just want to say, thank you for walking us
Yes,
through
of
that.
course.
I know you have a lot of crazy things coming up, and we're getting to the end. I would ask about fuel and shoes, but we kind of talked about a few
Yeah, just
fueling things and
yeah.
like that throughout. So maybe we could just end here with what's coming up next for you. You've got some
Yeah.
crazy stuff coming up. So what you got?
So I have the Dopey Challenge in
Cool,
January. Backtracking, I'm meeting my running bestie Edith for the first time. At a half
fun.
marathon in November. I know. And then I have the Dopey Challenge in January, so the 5K, the 10K, the half, and the full, all in a row.
Yeah,
And then I have my first ultra marathon in March. It's
dang.
a 5K, so they do like a 5K and then they take a break and do another 5K. For it's a 50K in all. And then I'm coming back to Pittsburgh for Vengeance to PR that first marathon. And
Let's go.
then I have my first world major a few months after that.
Oh, which one are you doing?
I am doing Sydney.
Oh, cool. Okay, cool. So
Yeah,
you'll be year two, second year of the marathon. That's
yep.
awesome.
I was
Very
supposed to
cool.
run London, but that's just not going to work out the way that I wanted, which is okay. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to. But yeah, I'm going to do Sydney. And then I have a bunch of 5Ks and things like that. But the Dobie Challenge and Pittsburgh are the ones I'm training for right now. That's where my
Amazing.
cycle starts next week.
Cool. How are you feeling about everything?
Oh my gosh, I'm so stressed about it because
It's a lot.
I don't have a finished plan yet. I keep messing it up and editing it and doing all this stuff to it
Yeah.
because nobody has a plan, but like I think Hal Hogan and Jeff Galloway, so I kind of have to do it myself.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I've heard good things about the Jeff Galloway plans for like the Dopey
yeah.
challenge, but you've got so many so many other things too.
Well,
Um
I tried it and it was just it was like 28 weeks. It was so long and
uh
I didn't like the mileage and the way and the pacing of it. So I'm kind of taking things from that and like moving forward with it, but doing it as
yeah.
a whole was not right for me.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, no plan is one size fits all. I think,
Hmm.
I've talked a little bit about it on the show, like my own experience, but working with a coach now, like I can see the benefit of having somebody to help you adjust because like these
Yeah.
plans are not one size fits all whatsoever. And
No.
so I'm at least glad that you're like taking pieces of it, making it your own. I think that's so
Yeah.
important with a training plan
I'm
for sure.
I'm looking into a running coach after all that's done, once
Yeah.
the chaos calms down.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Well, cool. Well, excited for what's coming up next for you.
Yeah,
And I
thank
guess if
you.
anybody wants to follow along with you and follow along with these crazy couple months, where can they find you?
So I am Rebecca the Mediocre Runner on Instagram and TikTok. So if you just put Rebecca Mediocre Runner, I'll pop up.
Awesome. Well, cool. I'll link it in the show
Thank
notes as well.
you.
But thank you again for coming on. This was so fun.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the My First Marathon podcast. For more stories, tips, and resources, head to myfirstmarathonpodcast.com. And if you want access to bonus episodes, exclusive resources, and extra support for your training, make sure you check out the community at myfirstmarathonpodcast.com/exclusives. You can also follow along with us on socials, Instagram and TikTok. That's at myfirstmarathonpod. If you want to follow along with my personal journey, that's at pay.says. Whether you're training, recovering, or just thinking about signing up, you belong here. I'm so excited that you're here, and we'll see you on the next one.